Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast, the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney for your Transfer Deadline Day podcast. We have arrived at the end of January, so a lot to dissect, but there's no hiding from it. Unfortunately, everyone has seen the news, and I never thought I'd sort of start a podcast this way, never really wanted to, but we can't shy away from it. It is out there, and we'll quickly address it, Larry, because I don't want to. I'm almost physically upset almost just talking about it. You thought, how am I going to address this? But we'll try and be very quick with it. I think first things first, we'll talk about Mason Greenwood. We'll talk about everything. At the end of the day, there is a victim in this. Quite often forgotten that there is a victim in this. I think that's where the attention does need to be at the moment. I think too often we talk about the ramifications for Greenwood or for football players or for football clubs. The attention, in my opinion, needs to be on the victim. Hope she's okay. The thoughts are with her and her family and anyone else suffering from this, because this is not an isolated incident. This happens all around the world every day. So hopefully to anyone suffering is able to seek help, but especially this young woman shouldn't have to go through that. So the thoughts are with her first and foremost. But we'll sort of touch on the Greenwood part of it quickly. And we have to remember, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, have to remember, be mindful of what you post on social media. Contempt of court is a real thing. We don't need to be adding fuel to the fire on social media by speculating and just sort of sharing the images. If she's taking the images down, she wants them down for a reason. Speculating and online debates aren't going to help anyone in this situation. I think just let the judicial process play out. And unfortunately, that's going to be a long procedure, but that's all we can do as fans. We just have to let it play out because contempt of court is a real thing. Now, in the court of law, obviously, you do have to go along the notion of innocent until proven guilty, of course. However, we have all seen the images. We have all seen or heard the audio, which is horrifying, which is damning. So we all agree that, look, if there is an ounce of this which looks to be true, we all agree, we're all in agreement of what needs to happen to Mason Greenwood or any player in that situation. But we're talking about Mason Greenwood here, what needs to happen. I think forget about his Manchester United contract, forget about his football career. The first thing that needs to happen is he would need to go away and go away for a long time. That is the case of the matter. I don't know what else to add, Larry. I don't want to go into it too deep, but just your thoughts, because it's been a horrifying 24 hours.
Yeah, it has. It has. And good evening to everyone here. And we will obviously bring it to the football side and how this impacts things on the football sides. Because let's be real, this impacts Manchester United a lot. It's a player who starts, for the most part, Tom, every match day. Now, he's been suspended. We don't know how long that will be for. The club has made a statement and said he won't be attending training, nor will he be available for selection until further notice. Like you said, there is a judicial process. We have to allow that process to play out. Like you, I don't want to speculate. We've seen here in Australia many examples happen with NRL players that are like this, and they can go one way or the other. Look, the reality is, and the only part I'll make on this, the only statement I'll make on it is we don't have all the details. And I think it's all very damning for Mason. Absolutely it is. And like you said, if he's guilty of this, he'll get what's coming and he'll get what he deserves. But ultimately, we don't have the details. And the judicial system, rightly or wrongly, is innocent until proven guilty. So we just, like you said, let's keep I'm sorry, I've got her. I had her name here, and I've now forgotten it. But we keep the Harriet.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Harriet Robson, I think.
Harriet Robson. We'll keep Harriet in our minds. I hope she gets all the support that she needs, obviously, and her family. I imagine it's a very traumatizing experience for her. And for any woman out there, if you're not feeling safe, there are phone numbers out there. There are hotlines. Please reach out. Make sure you're safe. And it just shows, it talks to a greater issue in football. Anyway, look, I think we can dwell on this, but I will just leave it there. I hope, we just got to let it play out. It's a really unfortunate situation for all involved.
Yeah, no, definitely. And look, I do want to quickly move on, but I just want to, and there are a lot of people in the chat. I want to say good evening to everyone. I won't bring everyone's comments up. We will try and sort of move on to the football discussion, but I am glad to see everyone is in a live chat. But my last thing, Larry, before we move on to the football, and you're completely right in everything that's happened, and we're all on the same page in regards to what needs to happen if true. It's sad, but that it needs to happen. I've been feeling physically ill for the past 24 hours. I'd rather Manchester United get relegated. These are two strangers on the other side of the world. Nothing to do with me, and I feel physically sick. Like, we have an emotional investment and an attachment to these players of these clubs, and you can understand why people say don't get emotionally invested in it, because they will let you down. These aren't just football players; they are people, and sometimes, and sadly, in a lot of cases with football players, in terms of celebrities, aren't the greatest of people. And unfortunately, this looks like a case here where it is just that, because I loved Mason Greenwood 24 hours ago. Now, is the bottom of the pile for me and needs to go away. Again, if sort of thing.
Look, if it's true, forget all of that. Can we just say on Mason, he'll never come back the same after this.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens. If he plays again, he's ridiculed, he's criticized. This will be with him for the rest of his career.
Well, I want to see Manchester United now, regardless of what happens, I want to see Manchester United take action and move forward. I think it's an historic week for Manchester United. It's obviously 64th anniversary of Munich, and we saw how the club acted and behaved back then. And I think United need to act in the same way now. I think they need to get out in front of this, take the lead.
Tom, sorry to throw you in an awkward spot, but I'm going to need you to hold the fort for 2 minutes. I'll be back in a sec.
No, please do. Well, I will go to some of the live chats. Larry's done a bit of a runner, but again, that is enough for the Mason Greenwood situation. Let this play out. I'm sure, unfortunately, this might play out for a while. Obviously, Greenwood has been suspended indefinitely, not allowed to train or play. Manchester United, I think Manchester United's hands are tied in that regard, and they have done the right decision. But unfortunately, this looks like it will play out in time. We have seen, obviously, cases at Everton and Manchester City this season where there still hasn't been any sort of resolution to those issues. And you can only assume this Mason Greenwood one will sort of play out in the media, unfortunately, for a long time. But as we said at the start, the only thoughts at the moment have to be with the victim. There is a victim in this, and you just hope she is getting all the support that she does need. But we will, obviously, it is transfer deadline day. Enough of that. Again, hopefully everyone in the live chat is keeping well. If you are keeping well and looking forward to sort of a bit of transfer business, not that United are going to do transfer business, but if you think they might, please do leave a like on the video. And if you are new, if you could hit subscribe, that would be great. But we will get into all the sort of, we might do incoming signings, well, the lack of incoming signings at the end of the podcast. But Larry, we'll move quickly on to Donny Van Der Beek. This is a weird one. We all knew he was likely to go out on loan. Now, for the past week, Crystal Palace has been the front runner with Patrick Vieira pushing quite hard for him. And at the last hour, Everton have come in. Now, I don't even know if Frank Lampard is announced as the Everton manager. I don't think he is. But everyone's just assuming Frank Lampard is the Everton manager. Now, he has come in and got a late steal for Donny Van Der Beek. And Fabrizio Romano has, I think, here we go, pretty much confirmed that he is off to Everton. Just want your thoughts, because everyone is saying, Crystal Palace would have been the better move. And when I look at all the facts, I think, well, yes, I do agree that Crystal Palace probably is the better move. But for some reason, I just prefer the Everton move. I have no idea why. I think I'm wrong in thinking that. But I just, for some reason, do like the Everton move. I don't know if he can stay in Manchester and it's easier. It's like he doesn't have to he's obviously, his wife or his girlfriend is pregnant currently. So it's an easier transition for him. I'm not sure if that plays a part. I'm not sure if Frank Lampard plays a part in regards to quite similar, not similar players, but you know what I mean? You can draw comparisons in regards to the way they played the game. Yeah. For some reason, I do prefer the Everton move to Crystal Palace, even though I think I'm wrong in thinking that.
No, I think it's a great move for Donny. If I'm being honest, Everton have really underperformed this season. You look at that team on paper, that's a top 10 Premier League side. Undoubtedly, they should be pushing for European spots. I know it's easier to get a European spot nowadays with the Conference League, but in saying that Everton side, I know they've had their injury problems this season as well, but under Rafa Benitez, they've really underperformed, Tom. And I think it's a good opportunity for Donny. If Everton have a positive finish to the season, he'll start a lot of games. He'll get an opportunity to prove himself in the Premier League for a good side. I think with Crystal Palace, there could have been the excuse of a cop-out in the sense they're a counter-attacking side. They sit deep. United play on the try to put their ascendancy forward. They like to play on the ball. So I think the criticism then would have been Donny, he plays in a counter-attacking side. That suits him. He doesn't have to control the game. I think Everton will be a front foot team. And I think that'll really benefit Donny. So, look, I hope he kills it, Tom. I really do. I think he's got a real opportunity now. If he kills it, I think that's a great way to stake your claim for the next manager. If he doesn't, I think he just determines his transfer value.
Do you think that? Who do you think? Yeah, no, I think it'll be fascinating. I think who's going to tune into Everton weekly as a Man United fan. I don't think that's something anyone would do. However, the next Everton game, I think every Manchester United fan around the world is going to be tuned in to see how he goes. And yes, we do hope he does well. But what do you think? Do you think there's a situation, even if I don't know, let's say it's a Ralph Rangnick, who Ralph Rangnick hasn't warmed to him so far. Let's say Ralph Rangnick gives himself the job in 6 months' time. Do you think there is a situation where even if Donny Van Der Beek does do quite well at Everton, we here as fans are thinking, okay, he can come back. He's earned himself. He can come back and prove himself at United now. Is there maybe a view at United where that's not their line of thinking? Their line of thinking is hopefully he does well to increase his transfer value. Do you think there's a situation where he actually does do well, but doesn't end up back at United?
Look, all things are possible, but I think if you look at Donny, all the reports coming out around Donny Van Der Beek, it's nothing to do with his technical ability.
Oops, that's a bit later.
There's a concern around physicality. So if he can go to a Premier League side and prove himself, I think there's no way United let him go. You have to remember, Paul Pogba's leaving in the summer. We don't know what's happening with Nemanja Matic. He's off contract. I know there's an option. I think it's in his favour to extend, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. We're looking really thin in the midfield areas. I think Donny's got a real opportunity here to stake his claim. And look, we're thin in the midfield. We can't deny that. So I can't see him going simply because Juan Mata, another player in his position who you expect
he might be back in on the right wing now. Juan Mata, he might get a few more games.
He might be.
Could you look at it? And not to bring this back into a Mason Greenwood debate, and not to throw any light at the situation. But have we looked into the situation in regards to, let's say, an Amad Diallo who's gone on loan to Rangers? Is there a situation where we do have a player on loan and can be recalled? Has anyone actually come with any confirmation on a situation like that, or is something just wouldn't happen?
Who knows? I think, well, it's case by case. In a lot of cases, you do see there isn't a recall option, but in some cases there are. I can't see it happening. I think Ahmad will stay on loan at Rangers. And if I'm being honest, look, I like Ahmad. I think he's brilliant. Man, if Donny's not physical enough, then what's Ahmad? Like, you're kidding. He looks like a kid I expect to see at the park across the road on the swings. He's very small. So I think Ahmad needs the loan. Donny, look, if he proves himself, Tom, I think he'll be a mainstay next season. Look, we've seen it on the ball. On the ball, while he hasn't been impressive, I think he's shown enough. But the Dutchman really needs to stamp his authority this next 6 months. If he can do that, I think he's a shoo-in next season.
Well, Rob, just before we move on, Rob makes a good point here, which is I think he's going back to Brentford. I don't know if it's confirmed, but it does look. So Rob's saying also nice to see Eriksen fit to play football again. Yeah, so everyone, I think, again, the whole football world will be tuned in to watch Brentford play. It is good to see him back. Dion agreeing here. And George, just before we move on from the sort of the wing area of the pitch, Alanga and Sancho are the beneficiaries of this debacle.
I don't agree with that. I think it's actually a problem for the squad because if Sancho or Alanga underperform, we don't have many options to come in. That's my concern. But
it gives them the chance of not guaranteed minutes, but the confidence in to go out and play. And, okay, if I drop a 5 out of 10, it doesn't matter. I can still play next week. Now, that's obviously something we've accused the players of sort of hiding behind, sort of the luxury of being, sort of not being too fearful of being dropped. But also some of these players might need that confidence of thinking, look at the De Gea and Henderson situation last year. That didn't help De Gea. No, and hang on, if I make one mistake, the cameras are going to be on me. Now he knows he's the number one goalkeeper. He's playing with a lot more freedom. And I think that will be the case with some of these young players because Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, and Anthony Alanga, they are all young players now. Obviously, Marcus Rashford and even Jadon Sancho to an extent are quite experienced. But they are young players, so I still think they're going to benefit from consistent minutes. And ultimately, Greenwood being out of the fold, it does give someone more increased minutes. Maybe, in my opinion, maybe Juan Mata can come back in on the right-hand side for a couple of appearances.
Surely United, I know we haven't made sign. And look, can we just say, I know I'm drifting a little bit off course here, Tom. Zakaria to Juventus. Geez, United really dropped the ball on that one.
Look, yes, I agree. It's one of those ones a week ago. We're sitting here and it's the first time we ever heard of him. And then we're saying he'd be a great sign. And then some say, no, he's not going to be a good signing. Ultimately, for that price, in terms of the gaping hole we do have in midfield, it does. And Juventus are very good at deals like that. Juventus can pick up those cheap deals, whether they be a couple of million or whether they be a free transfer. These situations sort of Juventus thrive in, and we just sort of, as you say, just sort of throw it away, unfortunately. But we'll move on. Weird one here, Jesse Lingard. As I said here, let Lingard leave. I was here the other week saying we'd get something for him. If we're not going to get his wages covered or not going to get a loan fee, okay, well, he should stay because we're just going to weaken our squad if Bruno Fernandez gets injured, Donny Van Der Beek goes on loan, Mason Greenwood goes away for a long time. Getting rid of a player on loan for nothing, I found it quite sort of naive. However, the situation now, he's coming out with stupid stuff. His brother is coming out with even more stupid stuff, like saying he was held prisoner or he's on day release like this time last year. Jesse Lingard is constantly posting photos of himself in the West Ham shirt. Now he knows what he's doing. They're now in an ideal situation. If United are top of the league and playing good football and he's just posting a thing on this day a year ago, you can understand that. But he's obviously using these West Ham photos as a negotiation ploy against the club. So for me, Lingard, he's not contributing on the pitch at the moment, down to Ralph Rangnick not selecting him, whether that's right or wrong. In my opinion, that's right. I don't think he should be playing for Manchester United at the moment. But the circus coming in and around Lingard now, for me, just let him leave today. If Newcastle want to pay us money to get him on loan, take it.
Yeah, I don't like the way Lingard's carried on. And his brother as well. Like, mate, seriously, grow up. Held captive, what he said, I don't even know what he said. He was basically implying Lingard's being held in prison. Oh, if he's on prison on 100K a week, is he? Poor bastard. Feel so sorry for him. Piss off. Seriously, man. The attitude of the footballers and their entourage / family members is embarrassing. I like Jesse Lingard. I think he's done some awesome things in a United shirt, but this is pathetic. Oh, look, I don't think the club's treated him well. I got to be honest. I don't think they've handled the situation well. But top and bottom of it, you have a contract, you're getting paid, you crack on. I think Donny's been harder done by than Lingard has. So,
well, in the live chat, let us know what you think will happen with Lingard, because I assume we've probably got maybe a bit over 12 hours of the transfer window left. So a lot can change, whether West Ham come back into the fold or Newcastle sort of increase their bid, or Jesse Lingard or his entourage put a bit more pressure on Man United. Something can happen. But what do you think will happen? Because here we are, okay, this should happen, or he's been treated like this. There's still business to be done. I think Lingard needs to leave. In regards to, now, I say that, but again, then Mason Greenwood's gone, Amad Diallo's gone, Donny Van Der Beek's gone. Are we in a position to be letting players go, even if the situation isn't great for them around the club? We're getting rid of bodies because we're going to get into income and signings in a bit. We're not signing anyone, I don't think. So getting rid of players now, I just think, while on an individual basis you can say, yes, it's the right decision, but looking at the bigger picture, there is an argument to say that it's not the right decision.
Look, whether it's right or wrong, whatever, I think that's debatable, depending who you speak to and what hour you speak to them, and depending how long ago did Jesse Lingard make his last post in a West Ham shirt. But in reality, Tom, I think he'll stay. Like you said, the Mason situation's really just thrown a spanner in the works. He's an attacking player. He can play in that position. It's not his best position, but he can do a job out there. And I think just for that situation alone, I think I can't see any attacking players leaving. I'm amazed United let Donny leave, if I'm being honest.
Well, who's more important? Well, Donny Van Der, that's a more important loan than Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, for sure. But I would have thought it's one or the other. I wouldn't have thought both leave in January. Because if Bruno goes down, what happens? We don't really have much there. I mean, we've got Paul Pogba. When he wants to turn up, he's great. When he doesn't want to turn up, he makes you wish Fred was in the team. Yeah. Outside of that, I mean, particularly with the 4-3-3, if Bruno goes down, there's really not a lot of bodies there, Tom. So I'm a bit worried.
The answer is above me. One matter. He needs some minutes. If the club are going to keep him around, use him. I don't want Bruno Fernandez to be injured, but we need to start using one matter.
Could be deployed in an 8 though, just in the way Rangnick wants to play.
That's where Ralph Rangnick played him. The one appearance. That's where he played with Donny Van Der Beek. Remember, they played a 2-man midfield.
Yeah.
Not that he was brilliant.
Match, to be fair.
I'm not saying the answer is one matter. Obviously, it is tongue-in-cheek. But that is the issue with getting rid of all these players all at once. If Bruno does get injured, if Donny Van Der Beek goes on loan, Lingard on loan, suddenly we are quite thin. One matter's not the player. While I love him and think he'd be great, he's not the player you can just throw in a must-win situation.
Sorry, I'm looking at Emad's. Got Emad in the comments here saying around Bruno Fernandez turns up only sometimes if he wants to. Come on. Don't let this season dictate your view on Bruno Fernandez. He's been absolutely brilliant. Where would United be without Bruno Fernandez? That's what you need.
Well, it is a 2 year. I think yesterday was a 2-year anniversary since he signed. And yes, in terms we can have debates about him as a footballer and pros and cons. But yes, ultimately, I'll put him in that David De Gea bracket in regards to where we would be.
He's world class. He's the only outfield world class player I think we have.
I think also, and this is a different debate, and this is not to throw shit at anyone. However, you mentioned it on Twitter as well. And again, you try not to get too emotionally invested in these players because who knows, the situation can very much change in a day's time. Who knows? But you do get the idea on and off the field, Bruno does carry himself very well.
Yeah.
Well, on the field, you can have an argument about the tantrums and the arguments kind of thing. But ultimately, that's just professional. But in terms of off the field stuff, which is just as important as we've seen today, that's just as important when you're representing Manchester United. It is a pleasure to have Bruno at the club.
Yeah. He seems like an all-round good guy. The only thing I don't like about Bruno Fernandez is sack whoever's controlling your Instagram and just post your own shit, please. Outside of that, he's fantastic. Seriously, he's the epitome of what forget footballers. He's the epitome of what a man should be. He found his high school sweetheart. He married her. No fuss. He doesn't go out and party. He's dating the girl he met when he was 16. Marries her, has kids with her, and then he calls his daughter petulant. Bruno, have you seen the way you carry on the football pitch, my friend? I love Bruno Fernandez.
Well, enough about Bruno. I'm sure Larry and Ahmad can carry on this conversation at another day, but we do appreciate all the comments flying in. Again, there are a lot in the chat, and it's been an action-packed podcast in terms of obviously what we had to touch on at the start. So apologies for not getting into all the comments, but we do appreciate all the interaction, all the banter, and as I said, all of it is very respectful. So we do appreciate that. But Larry, moving on, obviously Donny Van Der Beek, Jesse Lingard, all these players, and we can understand the loan deals and pros and cons. At the start of the transfer window, now there's one or two developments we're going to get into, but at the start of the transfer window, do you think anyone around world football would have had money on Phil Jones going on loan to Bordeaux?
I knew it was gonna. I knew Bordeaux were interested. You could smell it. You could smell it after his man of the match performance against who was it even against? Now I can't even remember. Burnley? No, it wasn't Burnley. Who was
Wolves,
it against?
When we lost.
Wolves. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was his header that leads to Moutinho's shot. How could I forget? Look, after Phil Jones' world-class performance, reminding us why he is the replacement to Rio Ferdinand 10 years later, I knew Bordeaux, Real Madrid, Barcelona would all be on the phone to speak to Sir Philip. But Sir Philip, again, knowing he has an exponential amount of options, Tom, said, I'll turn down Bordeaux because I'm going to get a bigger move to Stoke for the 2022-2023 season. Yeah, I had no idea.
Well, I'm just going through some comments on Fabrizio Romano's Twitter page here, and the first tweet is actually 24 minutes ago that Christian Eriksen has been confirmed a Brentford player. I'm not sure if that's a Fabrizio Romano confirmation or actually Brentford. But he was also talking about Phil Jones, that Bordeaux are going to have one last push. In terms of Phil Jones has called off the loan. This was all agreed. Both parties had agreed. Man United and Bordeaux had agreed a season-long loan, or for the remaining part of the season. It looked like Phil Jones had agreed that. Ultimately, Phil Jones, that's the first person you have to agree with before the clubs do. I know technically by the law, the clubs have to agree, then you discuss with the player. But ultimately, we live in the real world. You discuss that with the player first, then the last straw is the clubs. However, at the last minute, Phil Jones come in and said, no, I don't want to go. Your thoughts on that?
Very disappointing for Phil Jones, to be honest. Like, if he has any ambition as a footballer, which I'm sure he does, you need to go out and play. And he's just not going to get that game time at Manchester United. I don't know. I can't understand the decision. I understand it's probably an uncomfortable one, but, to go to France, a foreign country, you don't speak the language. I can understand. There are a lot of situations in that where you say, yeah, it could probably be a little bit better. But if you're Phil Jones, like, seriously, your career is on a heap, in my opinion. Like, he's got an opportunity here to decide whether he's still going to be a Premier League player. And like, I imagine now, can you imagine any Premier League side going in for him? You can't. No, that's exactly the point. So if he goes to Bordeaux and he kills it, and they've got a game against PSG, and again he kills it, maybe he secures a Premier League club after this season. Instead, he's going to sit on United's bench, earning a wage, and he's just upsetting himself in terms of his career prospects. I'm disappointed in Phil Jones. I think he should have gone.
It's one of those ones I do agree that I am a little bit disappointed, but then I remember when he did his podcast, and you can argue what's PR behind a podcast, but when he did have that chat a couple of months ago when he was sort of getting back to fitness, you did hear his side of the story, and you do sort of feel for him as a man, as a professional, and you think, we maybe should lay off him. Then we all sort of did lay off him, and he came back and gave that man of the match performance, and suddenly we're all on the train of Phil Jones. Some people even call him to start over Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, for God's sake, and now suddenly he's turned down a deal which we're not happy with. And suddenly we're all sort of questioning him again. I think it's a weird situation. Tom here saying, which was my thoughts as well, where Bordeaux came from. Jones to France would be hilarious. I think Phil Jones just needs to concentrate on defending. If he has to concentrate on defending and playing football and worry about another language, I don't know what would be going through Phil Jones' mind. I just can't see that situation working out well for him. You can understand him move to Blackburn or Stoke or Charlton or Bolton or a club like that.
You can get a translator for him. All these things can be easily fixed. Like, seriously, I just think for his own career, and I saw George's comment there, best lifestyle. He needs to think beyond the 18 months he has left on his contract, because you're only a professional footballer for such a small window. And Phil Jones has an opportunity now to put himself out there to say, this is what I'm still capable of. I can play at a high level, and he can demand a good contract for the final stages of his career. If he sits on United's bench, he's not going to be worth any coins or pencils or anything at the end of that contract. So he needs to be thinking about the big time picture. But hey, I'm just a guy on YouTube. What do I know?
Well, Tom, here, just before we move on to the incoming signings, did I miss the Greenwood chat? Yeah, we did start the podcast with the Greenwood chat. We tried not to dissect it too much. We just sort of looked at the facts, 1 or 2 minutes, and just gave our thoughts. And that's pretty much it. If you do want to go back and give that a listen, but we can only just look at the facts. But sort of, you're going to say something, Larry, before we move on?
Just on transfers. I mean, let's talk about the football side from Mason. I don't want to talk about the case itself. You and I have discussed this.
I know
the talk around Haaland, it's I know we sort of eased away from it, but you have to think now, United will pull out all the stops.
He's almost, I think now, in terms of the club and whether it's right, wrong, we're going to dissect, should we doing a deal with Mino Raiola? I think in terms of a transfer value, if you're weighing up the sort of the players as assets, I think Mason Greenwood's Man United's most valuable player. I think maybe Marcus Rashford's contract, maybe the money he's on, technically makes him more valuable than Mason Greenwood. But I think overall, the club would value Mason Greenwood as their highest asset. That's suddenly going to go out the door very likely for nothing. The club's going to take a huge hit on that very likely. I think, and the debate has been, are you happy to keep Mason Greenwood and develop in instead of that almost finished product in Erling Haaland? And a lot of us, look, it's 50-50. Some people have preferred Haaland, but I think a lot of people have erred on the side because of the agent who said, no, we'll stick with Greenwood. I think now the club, look, obviously we have a gaping hole in midfield. That needs to be addressed before any striker. But I think now with Ronaldo leaving in a year's time, and who knows, if we don't make the Champions League, he's leaving in 6 months' time potentially. I think the club now see Erling Haaland as potentially their number one target, especially with his release clause being at, 70 or 80 million?
Yeah, I imagine he's now suddenly... I think Haaland, if you ask United's board, priority would have obviously been central midfield. Haaland's probably a nice to have, but we'll probably give it a miss. I imagine suddenly Haaland's right on top. I think, look, midfield... This doesn't impact the midfield investment. I think that has to happen anyway. But I think Erling Haaland just got onto the top of United's list. And I think now, with the situation, and look, rightly or wrongly, I think United would be willing to pay Mino Raiola type wages to get an elite striker in. Because unfortunately, the situation we now find ourselves in might just need to do it.
Yeah, well, Tom,
there's not many Erling Haalands running around, put it that way.
Well, there's one at Chelsea and Lukaku. Obviously, I still see Lukaku and Haaland as very similar players. Obviously, Haaland, I think, maybe a bit of a better goal scorer. But it'll be interesting to see.
Haaland's a better footballer than Lukaku.
Yes, he's a better footballer, but I don't know.
He's not a brilliant footballer either, though.
Yeah, big guy, left foot. Like, you can obviously draw the comparisons, but obviously Erling Haaland's goal scoring record, it's on track to sort of beat sort of Ronaldo and Messi in the Champions League, which is crazy to think about, but that is what he's on track to do. Obviously, his next club will play a big part in that. But Tom there just brought up earlier in regards to the midfield is the gaping hole. But we'll move on. And again, if you are enjoying the content, please do leave a like on the video. It'd be great. I do appreciate all the comments flying in. It's hard to get to them all, but we do appreciate it. But incoming signings, it is deadline day. As I said, I think there's probably 12, 13, 14 hours left in the transfer window, Larry. A lot can change. We've seen that on deadline day. Falcao was done a couple of hours before all those years ago. And I think there was one, it was last year, Cavani and Ahmad and Palestri and all those, all done within the space of a few hours. I thought a couple of hours before on deadline day, we thought we're signing Josh King. 2 hours later, you sign Edison Cavani. So things can change very quickly. We'll obviously wake up to breaking news, I'm sure of it. However, at the moment, Larry, incoming signings, I don't think we're going to get any. And I'll throw this to you, and we sort of had a bit of a discussion about it earlier. I think, prove me if I'm wrong, call me naive, I think the Greenwood news has rocked the club, and rightly so. It has rocked the club. I think it will impact these incoming signings. I think attention is elsewhere. I think it puts so much on the plate of Manchester United. I can see it sort of scuppering some deals.
I called you out on this yesterday on Twitter, and you sat there saying to me it's tongue-in-cheek. See, I'm always a genius, Tom. This will not impact United's deals at all.
No. Yeah, of course, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you can see a situation where this isn't just a little bit of news for the club. This has rocked the club to the core. They're all over the place. They can't do deals when their sole focus is doing the deal. Now their lawyers are elsewhere scrambling. You can see a situation where, look at the Phil Jones. If Phil Jones is over the line, suddenly that goes...
United's lawyers don't have anything to do with Mason Greenwood.
Not with Greenwood, but they'll be sort of talking to the club in terms of how they can deal with the issues. Right, every sponsor will be in touch with the club saying what's happening. The lawyers will all over that.
I'd be extremely worried if United have one lawyer who's going to do everything. Surely we're better than that. We're better than that. Surely we're better than that.
Of
course, we have to be. Certain of it.
What evidence says we have to be?
Well, there's no evidence, but at the end of the day, the Mason Greenwood thing, if we're not going to sign a player, we're not going to sign a player because we don't plan to. The Mason Greenwood situation doesn't impact that in any way. I think if we're going to sign a player or we're not going to sign a player, that's already written into the future. We'll know in 24 hours. But to say the Mason Greenwood situation impacts the way United do business, mate, this is the Glazers. When there's a dollar to be made, there's a dollar to be made. Come on. Look,
I know that the club will want to be signing players. I can just see a situation. We know we're probably the worst run club in the Premier League. I think
Leon said it right there. Spot on. Corporate lawyers versus criminal lawyers. Two separate situations. They're not related. Simple as that.
No, look, that is where the tongue-in-cheek comes. I understand it's not one person. I understand it's a huge department with multiple different sort of facets playing a role. But I can just see a situation, and it's tongue-in-cheek, but also a serious line where the club can't do deals. Look at the way they got done by Ander Herrera all those years. They were talking to the wrong people, for God's sake. Like, we overestimate the professionalism of this club. We think because they're Manchester United.
I'm with you. The club isn't run best in class. I don't disagree with any of that. But your argument is the Mason Greenwood situation is going to scupper deals. Completely unrelated, mate. Completely unrelated.
Look, I hope we do sign someone. And if we don't sign anyone, I'm not going to come here and say, it's because of the Mason Greenwood situation. It's just when you put everything together, that's the emotion I do feel. Now, obviously, when you do look at things with a more level head, you can understand there are different sort of factors that do play a part. But this club is run like a shambles, and it just wouldn't shock me. In regards to the narrative around the club, it just wouldn't shock me. But in saying that, can you see Manchester United signing someone? Because I can't.
No, I can't, which is really disappointing because we're now going to be without an attacking asset. Can we look, I'm just going to focus on the footballer here. Mason's our third highest goal scorer this season.
Well, I thought about it in regards to if I was a player when I was a teammate, and obviously this never happened. And sort of, look, I pray to God it never happened in anyone's personal life, but obviously nothing like this was ever made public and played out in the world's media. But if this situation did arise in my dressing room when I was playing, I'm trying to think what would happen to the players. How obviously we would all be in agreement to get this guy out of our club, and would all be in agreement that it's a horrible thing and trying to focus on the game. However, I don't think it's something that, while everyone's on the same page, I don't think it's something that you can sort of really use to like rally the troops and everyone's sort of fire up and be on the same page while everyone is in agreement. It's not something I don't think where, okay, if someone's sort of like the Patrice Evra, Luis Suarez thing, Man United use that Patrice Evra to sort of fuel a bit of fire and sort of get behind Patrice Evra and use that as motivation. I don't think this is something players can use as motivation. It's only going to be a negative impact at the club. It's not something
distraction. It's a distraction, if anything. I can't imagine rocking up to training today would be great. It's all they'd all be talking about. It's all they'd be focused on. I'm sure you have senior players coming out saying, boys, obviously we've seen this has happened. Forget it. Put it behind us. We got a game of football to prepare for on Saturday. You know what? I know this sounds really poor. I'm sorry to say this. I know you value the FA Cup. I value the FA Cup personally. It might just be that the cup game being the first game we play since this news breaks, it might be the perfect excuse for a poor performance. But look, if it's going to happen, get out of the way now, because you just look at it the way we're run. I don't see a lot of leaders in that dressing room. You can just see it. You can just see it derailing us a little bit.
That's the thing, and there are far bigger issues, as we mentioned at the start of the podcast, that the thoughts can only be with the victim in this. However, if we put our selfish hats on as Manchester United fans, okay, throw away Greenwood or whatever, this is going to impact Manchester United negatively. And in terms of the situation we do find ourselves in, we're in a very bad spot. Okay, in terms of, okay, is a top four race, is that Man United's ambition? Of course not. However, in regards to what we need in the short term, we do need top four, or we do need a trophy, or we do need some type of sort of vision of, or sort of illusion of success. But ultimately, this could really derail us. And what does a derailment mean? Does that mean, okay, finish fifth and not get in the top four? Or could it really derail a season in regards to one or two results can see you in 9th or 10th, and then you're talking about maybe qualifying for the Conference League? And I'm not saying, look, the players are professional, they had to put this behind them and get on with it. But something like this off the field might actually be a pivotal part in sort of deciding the future of this season.
I actually think a signing would be the most welcome distraction for this playing group. If you can get that buzz of a new player.
The club as well from a PR point of view.
Yeah, well, there's the PR perspective, absolutely, 100%. But I think that there's such a good opportunity to get a player in, just to get the players having a buzz around. Oh, got this bloke coming in. I think it's a welcome distraction for the players. I think from a PR perspective, it ticks a lot of boxes for United, for the Glazers. Hell, it gives us something to talk about. I don't want to talk about this. It's freaking depressing, mate. It's been the most. I can't think of a more sad moment as a United fan. It's been dreadful to think that we were going to come on here and talk about this today. It's been the worst feeling in the world. Sign someone, please. Sign someone. Let Richard Arnold be holding his hand. Let's talk about that. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
As I said, I'd rather, and I'm in a very sort of minute fear where even on the best day, I would actually like Man United to get relegated. I think it would be good for the club and the fan base, and that's something I would actually enjoy.
If United get relegated, can you and I book our flights ASAP? Because I want to attend all those games. I think it would just be, I know it would obviously ruin the club financially, but my God, can you just imagine? I want us to win the Champions League and get relegated. That would be some party.
Stoke away on a Wednesday and Madrid on a Saturday night for the Champions League final. But it's about it. Look, it is deadline day. Hopefully everyone has enjoyed the chat. If you have, please do leave a like on the video. It'd be very much appreciated. But as I said, whatever we have discussed today in regards to transfers, that could very well change in a few hours. And I'm sure when we wake up in 12 hours' time, someone might be holding a Man United shirt, or we might have sold one of our best players. Who knows what will happen? So, look, I'm off work tomorrow, Larry, in the morning. So I don't know if there is one of those sort of races to the finish where we're signing someone and we're waiting on paperwork. Might even go live if one or two people are sort of keen for a chat type thing. So we'll see. We'll let that play out in the morning. Fingers crossed we are sort of chasing someone and getting one or two deals over the line, whether that be players outgoing. I think outgoing is far more likely than incomings at the moment. But obviously it's obviously an important week in the Manchester United calendar, and obviously it is Munich this week. So that FA Cup game against Middlesbrough is I think it's the day before or 2 days before the Munich anniversary. So there'll obviously be a ceremony at Old Trafford and they'll do their tributes and everything. So hopefully the club do the right thing. It's been a bit of a weird situation the last couple of years with COVID. They haven't been able to do their proper sort of ceremonies because of social distance and everything. So hopefully this year is back to some type of normality for that, and the players do put in a good performance to make those proud. But we will be doing an episode later in the week in regards to Munich. If anyone has any sort of interesting angle or thoughts on a way we could do that and sort of what you'd like to be discussed or looked at, feel free to get in touch. Obviously, a few people have guessed in terms of the former player coming on the podcast. I've spoken to him. A few have guessed that it is Brian McClare. So we'll be getting Brian McClare on some stage. Hopefully, he has said this week, but obviously we're syncing the time schedules in between the UK and Australia can be tricky at times. So a bit of patience with that, but hopefully he's on this week, if not next week. But Larry, we've talked about all these transfers and depressing news at the start, and the transfer news is depressing as well, depending how you look at it. Just a bit of a feel-good story, which had actually sort of popped up earlier in the episode. But a feel-good factor in regards to Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's daughter made her debut for Manchester United. And I just want to look at that in regards to this is what Manchester United is about. We've been so depressed in things that are sort of attached itself to Manchester United, rightly or wrongly, over whether it be the last decade or especially the last couple of hours. But ultimately, when you do look back, you look back at whether we're going to remember Munich and the Busby Babes. That's part of Manchester United's history. This is a part of Manchester United's history, the first parent and child to both represent the club.
Yeah, it was a really nice, welcome thing to read. Can I say, my heart feels warm seeing photos of Solskjaer. He just looks happy, doesn't he? I honestly think the sacking might have been the best thing that happened to Solskjaer. He actually looks younger, Tom. There's this big craze out there that they're looking for. You're looking at Kim Kardashian and Kendall Jenner and whoever else, all trying to find the solution to looking younger, getting your skin looking plump. The key is be like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, take your dream job and get sacked.
Yeah, but look, it was great to see, and the fans as well changed a few of the lyrics of the Solskjaer song to sort of fit her name, Kana Solskjaer. So they're singing the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer song for her, which I'm sure was a great moment for her. And Solskjaer was in the stands watching, so fantastic for him. And yeah, good to see because we've spoken about the abuse that he did get in those last couple of months was horrible. So I just say, look, I would have loved to see him stay the manager, but if he is healthy and happy now, not that he wasn't happy at Manchester United before. But just good to see because at the end of the day, we've spoken about these little things on the field, and this is good. This is a good signing, or that's a bad signing. At the end of the day, what we spoke about at the start of the podcast is far more serious than Manchester United, and we're looking at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a person, and we do just have to hope he's happy.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what would make you and I very happy, Tom? There are 20 people watching. We don't have 20 likes. Hit that like button. You like the United podcast. I know it's been a little bit of a downer of an episode, but we are normally more cheery. My name is Larry. There is a book about how happy I am. So if you want to see me happy, make sure you're hitting that like button.
No, definitely couldn't agree more. But we do truly appreciate everyone's thoughts in the comments today. Obviously a difficult episode, but an important episode. And look, I'm sure we'll be discussing it long into the future. But as I said, maybe make sure you are subscribed because if there is a race to the clock and we're going to sign Erling Haaland in the last couple of hours of the transfer window, we will go live tomorrow morning because I am off work. But until then, Larry, we'll see what Twitter throws us in the next couple of hours, and hopefully everyone has a good night, and we'll chat to you, if not tomorrow morning. I think we'll go tomorrow night anyway in regards to a review of the transfer deadline window. And who knows what shape Manchester United will be on this time tomorrow, Larry.
Well, it's the train that keeps on rolling. Cheers for all of those who've tuned in. I know it's been a bit of a mixed bag, but look, I think we've done well to summarize everything and bring things back to the football. And look, Tom, it's only 5 more sleeps until United are back in action. Bring it on.
Yeah, well, Manchester United Supporters Club here in Sydney will be at Scruffy Murphy's on Saturday morning. It's a 7 a.m. kickoff for the Middlesbrough match. Obviously, they're watching the Middlesbrough match, but obviously also paying tribute to those who lost their lives in Munich. So feel free, if you are in Sydney, to come down to the Supporters Club on Saturday morning. It'll be great to see everyone. Unfortunately, I'm working, but I'm sure we'll get a good crowd there. But until then, hope everyone has a good night, and we'll chat to you probably this time tomorrow or a bit earlier if Manchester United pull their finger out and get a bit of business done. So until then, chat soon. Cheers.